Welcome back, Freaksters. I'm your host, Mr. Freaky, and tonight, we're heading deep into the heart of New Orleans, where the line between fact and folklore is razor thin. This is a true story about a terrifying legend that haunted black communities for generations. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, New Orleans was a lively city of music and fun times. However, some residents would tell you to avoid certain streets after dark. These weren't warnings without reason, especially in the city's black neighborhoods, Treme, the 7th Ward, and the blocks surrounding Basin Street. There was a name that people spoke of in whispers: the Night Doctors. They were said to come after sundown, medical men dressed in lab coats, moving stealthily. Some described as carrying bottles, others syringes. Only they weren't there to heal, they were there to hunt. In the 19th century, New Orleans had become a major center for medical education. Tulane University and Charity Hospital were nationally known institutions, but what made them efficient was also what made them suspicious. To train doctors, these schools needed bodies, cadavers. Louisiana law at the time allowed for only a limited legal supply, mainly the unclaimed dead. So the schools, like others across the country, turned to other methods. And then there were some even more disturbing accounts about those hospitals, that some patients were being sedated and used in practice surgeries by inexperienced students. These weren't isolated incidents. They were so common in stories passed down that many parents would do anything to avoid taking a sick loved one, fearing they might never return or come back permanently altered. It was also common knowledge among many in the black community that graves in Holt Cemetery, the burial ground for the city's poor, were often disturbed. Wooden coffins were found broken, dirt shifted around. Many believed the bodies were being stolen, taken to Tulane or Charity Hospital under the cover of night. And they weren't wrong. Historical documents and later investigations confirmed that resurrection men, paid body snatchers, operated freely in New Orleans, with target being primarily black cemeteries. But the fear didn't stop at the graveyard. In neighborhoods close to the medical district, people began reporting much more chilling incidents. Parents told their children not to speak to men in lab coats they didn't recognize. Women warned each other not to walk alone at night. Men kept to well-lit paths and were careful not to stray too close to the walls of Charity Hospital after dark. One common story involved men offering medicine to strangers, drinks from a dark bottle, often with no label. The person who took it would fall ill or collapse, and if they weren't dragged away on the spot, they would often vanish soon after. Other stories described individuals being stopped by supposed health workers or city officials, only to disappear permanently. These accounts were dismissed by officials as paranoia, but over time, the consistency across generations and neighborhoods painted a much darker picture. Many of the stories described wagons rolling through the streets late at night, without horses, just the sound of wheels. These wagons were said to stop at homes where someone was alone or sick. Sometimes people recalled seeing a neighbor being escorted into a hospital and never coming out. When families tried to inquire, they were met with shrugs or silence. Residents who lived near Tulane's dissection lab remembered strange occurrences, foul odors drifting from back alleys, animal-like howls at odd hours, and the quiet movement of carts behind the school, sometimes covered, sometimes not. Hospital waste bins occasionally yielded what looked disturbingly like human remains. In official channels, there was little acknowledgement of wrongdoing. But in 1903, a city report mentioned the unusual volume of human waste material being removed from the Tulane facilities, though it avoided detailing what that entailed. At the same time, a pattern began to emerge in the newspapers. Bodies found in canals, in alleys and trash heaps, many described only by their race and presumed age, rarely identified. No follow-ups or families notified. Distrust of medical institutions ran so deep that some families took extreme measures to protect their dead. There are stories, quietly passed down in family lore, of relatives digging up freshly buried loved ones at Holt Cemetery days later, just to make sure they were still there. In more than one account, Families uncovered graves only to find the casket empty, filled with bricks or weighted sacks in place of the body. The implication was clear. The grave had been robbed and someone had tried to cover it up. As early as the 1880s, New Orleans black residents had begun describing these disappearances as something more than a coincidence. In the stories passed down through families, the abductors were known by several names. Some called them the Needlemen because it was said they'd incapacitate victims with an injection before they vanished. Others referred to them as the Black Bottle Men for the mysterious liquids they offered, but almost universally, they are referred to as the Night Doctors. The medical community of the time claimed these fears were baseless, but historical research, including works like Medical Apartheid, have confirmed that these stories were rooted in real practices. When medical students were rarely questioned about how they obtained certain dissection specimens, vague references were made to unnamed sources. Night deliveries or found bodies was often an excuse. One report from the early 1900s documented the case of a man found half buried behind a medical facility, showing clear signs of anatomical dissection. No records of him ever being admitted as a patient existed. His grave was never found. In the 1930s, researchers from the WPA's Federal Writers Project collected stories from older residents of the city. Many of these individuals, now in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, recalled firsthand how the fear of being taken by the doctors shaped their childhoods. One woman who grew up near Basin Street explained that as a girl, she was not allowed to walk anywhere unaccompanied after sundown. Not because of thieves, but because of what people said happened to those who walked alone. Others recounted how, as children, they would play games pretending to hide from the night doctors, mimicking the way elders warned them to be alert at all times. Even today, residents of New Orleans, especially in historically black neighborhoods, still mention the old warnings. They may laugh, call it superstition, but many will still tell you, if you see a man in a lab coat at night, keep walking. Don't talk, don't stop, and whatever you do, don't drink from a stranger's black bottle. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button for more unsettling true tales. Have a horrific evening, everyone, and remember to stay spooky, my friends.